At the end of fermentation, a wine press is used to improve the final yield and extract some of the wine that is left in the residual grape skins. Here, a large membrane press is sanitized using ozone to minimize contamination of the wine by unwanted yeast or bacteria. Once clean, the press is ready to load. The liquid portion of the tank, also called the free run fraction of the wine, is separated from the skins and transferred to another tank where it will be left to settle for a few days. After all the free run has been drained out, the solid phase, consisting mostly of grape skins, seeds, and fermentation yeast, is transferred into plastic bins. These bins are then emptied into the press. Here, the content of multiple batches can be combined into a single press load. As the press run is initiated, compressed air inflates the membrane inside the chamber, squeezing the remaining wine out of the skins. As the pressed wine comes out of the press, it is transferred to a separate tank and will be left there to settle and clarify for a few days as well. The more pressure is applied, the more the wine coming out collects tannins from the skins and seeds. The winemaker ultimately decides when enough wine has been pressed out, based on his sensory preferences. The dried skin and seed mixture, also called the pomace at this stage, is emptied out of the press and collected to be composted in the vineyard. Finally, the press is washed and prepared for the next press cycle. Sanitation is an integral part of the winemaking process. It is particularly important to sanitize all pieces of equipment that will come in contact with the juice or wine at any time throughout the process. To do so, various acids, base, or oxidizing chemicals are used to clean hoses, pumps, and tanks. This will ensure that no unwanted or spoilage microorganisms can enter the wine. The free-run wine, as well as the pressed wine, have now settled in the tanks for a few days and are ready to be transferred to the barrels. Before filling, though, the inside of the barrels have to also be sanitized. Here, high-pressure steam and an ozone solution are used to clean the barrels. Once dry, the barrels are ready to be filled. The wine is transferred from the lower section of the tank. However, the thick deposit at the bottom, also called the lees, will be left behind. The barrels are filled manually and cautiously to avoid spillovers. The entire process through crush, from picking the grapes to barreling the wine, will take from 4 to 6 intense weeks of winemaking. Once all the wine in a tank has been transferred to barrels, the lees are collected to settle for a few more days. Ultimately, this thick material will be composted and returned to the vineyard. During the aging process, the wine will remain in French oak barrels for up to 15 months. The winemaker carefully chooses his oak barrels from different coopers, including woods that may have been set to dry for up to 3 years. The different woods selected impart different flavors and tannins. Throughout the aging process, some of the wine will be absorbed into the wood, and a small fraction will evaporate out of the barrel. To avoid the excessive oxidation of the wine, the barrel must be topped off with more wine regularly to eliminate any air pockets that may have formed in the top of the barrel. While in the barrels, the wine will undergo malolactic fermentation. This important step will soften the acids and round off the wine. At the end of the aging process, the winemaker decides which barrels he will use for the different blends based on his personal taste. If necessary, he can also decide to adjust the tannins in a blend by adding fining agents. Once the final blends are determined, the wine can be transferred from the barrels to the blending tank. The wine is then passed through a filter to remove any suspended solids such as leftover yeast, and returned to another clean tank awaiting bottling. On the bottling days here at the winery, a mobile bottling line service comes with a fully equipped trailer. On this type of setup, cases of empty bottles are fed into the trailer at one end, and full cases of labeled bottles come out at the other end, ready for shipping. Inside the trailer, a crew member feeds the bottling line with empty, unlabeled bottles. The bottles are first sparged by removing the air with a vacuum and replacing it with an inert gas. Then they pass through a 15-head bottle filler carousel. The fill level is adjusted precisely and the cork is inserted. Two crew members can then fit the foils onto the bottle. The foils are crimped and the bottles move on to the labeling station. Finally, the bottles are dressed and ready to box. The cases are then palletized and prepared for shipping. Almost all the pallets will be sent out to a distributor's warehouse, from which the cases will be then dispatched to a retailer and ultimately to the consumer. Van Duzer Vineyards produces 7 different Pinot Noirs, including 5 barrel-selected blends based on block and clonal selections, as well as a Pinot Gris, a rosé from Pinot Noir grapes, and 2 types of dessert wines.